Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Dr. Torie, here with another episode of Be Victorious. You know who I am. You know where to find me. All on social media is Dr. VicTORIEus, DrVictorius, Dr. Victorious. This episode here is the episode that we have all been waiting for. This young lady doesn't need an introduction at all. If you're following me, you should be following her. She is, I've never really met anybody as excited about doing this besides me, but her. She is Sister Fran. We do Spaces to Bloom. On Thursdays, we have wonderful topics. She's pursuing her master's degree in social work. She really needs no introduction. I had to bring her on. Sister Fran, are you there?
Hey, Dr. Torie.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am blessed. I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to have you here. I think you're amazing. I have to shout you out. So last week I talked about it. I shouted you out last week. She is the lady that is responsible for these. I think this is an amazing thing because her passion for ACEs, if I had to put her up there, it's probably more than mine. I mean, the things that she has done under my regime as her I am her ACEs mentor. I'm sure she has people that she looks up to, but the fact that she chose me to do this, I have done the best that I can to get her together, y'all, and she is good about adverse childhood experiences. Sister Fran, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here, and just thank you for being a part of an amazing journey. Becoming ACEs aware. Just when you think you know everything ACEs, there's so much information and research out there to learn more. So thank
Indeed.
you for being a part of this journey.
Man, I appreciate it. I thank you again. It's an honor to be your mentor. I want to know what made you pursue ACEs?
So for me, as I was studying as an undergrad student, pursuing my bachelor's in human relations, anytime I was given an opportunity to write a research paper on a topic, I always chose child abuse, child sexual abuse, any of the traumas that I've experienced, just so I can learn more about myself, and why I struggled. And I just kept coming across the ACE study.
Mhm.
So I'm like, this is interesting. And I love that, it talked about the long-term consequences, the lifelong effects from, childhood into your adult years. I've never had, I never came across any other studies that, broke down the science um, behind the trauma. And, this was back in, I want to say 2010.
Mhm.
And really, you didn't hear a lot of people talk about ACEs.
Mhm.
So, for me, I became obsessed with the information.
Yeah. I think that's what it was for me. I'm glad that it's out here, and I'm glad that more people are becoming ACEs aware, and you are one of them. So tell me, when you found out about ACEs, like when you actually found out about it, what was the first thing that you did?
So I wrote about it with certain sources that, I've come in contact with. And I thought to myself, this makes perfect sense to me. Like,
Mhm.
this is why I'm struggling mentally. This is probably why I'm struggling almost every aspect of my life.
Right.
I was a young mom, I had my son at 19, and I just was struggling all around. I didn't have any addiction to like any substance or anything. But I just struggled. I struggle with mental health issues, and I wasn't getting any help at the time, but it just seemed like the more information that I learned about ACEs,
Mhm.
it just kind of did something for me. It kind of empowered me because it made me believe that, there's nothing wrong with you, and
Mhm.
obviously something happened.
Right.
And everything that you're feeling and experiencing as an adult is a result of what you experienced. So it kind of gave me some peace.
Mhm.
And if it gave me peace, I can only imagine what it would do for others.
Come on now, and that's why you on the journey. Now, what's your ACEs score, if you don't mind sharing?
So I have no shame on my ACE score. My ACE score is 10, which is the highest. And, of course, it doesn't account for the expanded ACEs out there that's not included in the ACE study, but
Mhm.
it's high. Yeah.
Just so you know, we're going to go to the CDC together because they
Right.
publish stuff on the CDC, just so you know, it's effective June 29th. So for
Right.
anybody that's listening, it's on there. And I feel great about it because I know we have been trying to get it out there since we've worked together. And to see it on there is a sigh of relief for me. That means something that we're doing. And I don't care what anybody say, something that we're doing is making an effect. So
Oh
congrats.
yeah, of course.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm excited about that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just get to it because I understand that you have a story and I know that there are layers to your story, but share your story that leads you to discovering ACEs and doing something about it.
So for me, I have experienced all types of childhood traumas from in the household, from childhood physical, sexual, emotional, verbal abuse, incest, being exposed to domestic violence. The question that asks about, if you lived with someone with a mental illness. For me, the perpetrator was my biological father, and I'm not sure if they consider pedophilia a mental illness, but that was definitely something that he had. He was definitely, he always looked to me as like the love of his life, romanticized, our relationship, sexualized the relationship. So that's why I answered yes to that question.
Mhm.
He will also have drinking issues. He drank a lot of beer. And then that's when he would, proceed with his doings. And I was also groomed. And if you're not aware what grooming is, it's basically like a plan to victimize a person. So you build rapport with them, a trusting relationship, you get to know who their family are. And this is usually like with like outside, like within the community, like between a coach and a student. But
Right.
because this was in a household, there was easy access, right? And so when I say groomed, I'm referring to the household that I grew up in. My bedroom was the only room on the first floor.
Oh, wow.
And so this was obviously well thought out. It was a process. And, I have an older sibling who was victimized by him.
Mhm.
So when I would say that my mother knew or she was complicit, she definitely was, because this wasn't the first time he has done it within a family. She knows he has a history of doing it, and she worked nights and weekends.
Um,
So when you work night and weekends, you're giving that person the go and the okay to do what they want to do.
mhm.
Um, some of the things that she would make me wear or she would purchase for me to wear was kind of, I feel like, was too revealing at the age that I wore it. Like my pajamas would be silk pajamas and things of that nature. So
Oh, wow.
it didn't occur to me until I've gotten older that, I wasn't just groomed by my father. I was also groomed by my mother. And it's very, it's unheard of,
Mhm.
but it's my truth.
Mhm.
And
I'm sure you're
I-
not alone.
oh, of course, no, no, it's just you don't hear it that often,
Yeah.
or people just don't speak up about it as often as they should.
Right.
But I was always the black sheep of the family because I always spoke out against it, and I always you know spoke up for my siblings when they were being physically abused.
Mm.
So I always got the short end of the stick. I was the beaten stick. I was the one that was my father made the example out of, even though um I excelled in school. I
Mhm.
always made A's, always made E's. E's are for excellent.
Right.
Um, I was an overachiever, but I was struggling. I was
Mhm.
suspended a lot. I got into fights. I would act out in class. And when the teacher would call my father in, and have that talk with him, like, your daughter's, she's hanging out in the bathrooms or she's being disrespectful, she's very outspoken. He would like put his hand on me in front of them. Like
Oh,
there's times where he slapped me across my face in front of them.
oh,
And, we've come a long way as a society when we talk about being trauma informed, because if that would have happened now, it would have been an issue.
right.
But the teacher never followed up with me. She never asked, are you okay? Are you being abused? Or something. I didn't get any of that. It was almost like you deserved it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
But you're
I,
right. I mean, you're right. You're right. And something is saying aces or, going through those experiences
Right.
were just the normalcy, and it's not normal. It's not okay. Oh, I hate that you like, yeah, I get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
so that, I mean, that's just a little bit about, some of the abuse that I went through.
Yeah.
My father would also keep us isolated. So we really couldn't like have too many, so we weren't able to go to too many social gatherings. Um, he wanted to keep us isolated because he felt as though the more isolated we were, the less others would know on the outside. So
Right.
like if we gotten any phone calls from my friends, he will screen the phone calls. If he will make sure to drive us to school and pick us up. The days that he wasn't able to do it, we were happy because we had a little bit of freedom to, hang with our friends.
Right.
But like everyone in our school knew who our father was. They knew what vehicle he drove. When we would go home, he would check my pockets, make sure I didn't have any love letters, like things like that. But his the overbearingness of his prote- protection, I wouldn't call it protection. It was more of a place of being jealous,
Hmm.
because he viewed me like I wasn't his daughter. It was just
Right.
like he would say stuff like, I'm in love with you. I want to run away with you. I don't love your mother. Your mother is ugly. And like he was obsessed with me. So, and then like, even around family members, he would say inappropriate things about certain body parts, but it
Mhm.
was just normalizing, my culture, and no one didn't think nothing of it. But I was definitely being groomed.
Yeah.
And my mother, she was just emotionally absent,
Oh, wow.
physically absent, because she always worked multiple jobs.
Hmm.
But I know for sure she knew what was going on. And the thing about it is, for the longest time, I struggled with like how do I tell her what's going on? Like I would give her clues.
Right.
The thing is, there were a aunt in my family who, she paid attention. She was like, something's not right with your daughter. Like she's very withdrawn. She's always in her room. She's always angry at Tony, who's my father's name. That's what they called him, Tony. And she and that particular aunt, my mom, they were actually best friends, and they fell out. And I
Oh,
and I believe the reason why they fell out is because she just kept, you know, trying to address what was wrong with me, because she said
right.
something's wrong with her. Like who's angry at their father all the time. But what my
Right.
mother did, and my father, what they did a lot was they made me, they painted me to be like this bad person. Like I was a hoe. I was, always out in the street, giving hell, and I was none of those things.
Right.
I was an overachiever because that was how I coped. I coped with, writing poetry. That was like a really healthy outlet for me. But yeah, it was. And then not only that, but when we moved to Florida when I was about like 16 years old from New Jersey, right? Because I was raised in New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
And
Hear it in
I
your-
was,
I can hear it in your voice.
oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, accent.
And so when we moved to Florida, that's where my mother was like barely like around. So my father was really like, the abuse was more frequent. And I remember saying something to one of my best friends in Florida in high school, and she probably was like, that don't sound right. Like that's what's going on. I can't remember word for what I told her. I'm still friends with her till today. And she went behind my back and told a school counselor. And the school counselor brought me in, and she questioned me, and she said, at this point I have to speak about what you told me. I can't keep this as a secret. And she called my mother in. She called my mother in and called me in. They questioned me, and I told my mother exactly what happened. It was a lot. It wasn't easy, but it was like, well, I have someone here is advocating for me, so let's see how this goes. My mother sat there and called me a liar in my face. She said she's lying, and I don't understand why she's lying. She just don't want to move, and all of this foolishness. And the counselor sat there and was like, I don't understand how you can sit here and look in your daughter's face and call her lying. She's crying her eyes out. She's crying her heart out. Like
Mhm.
this is a cry for help.
Mhm.
And I can go on. It's just so many layers to my past. But
But this is the reason why you are here.
yes.
You're a cycle breaker.
Yes. definitely.
Your shirt says it all. Can we see your shirt, please?
Toxic family survivor.
Because you've shared this with me, and now you shared it with everybody else, and
Mhm.
that had to be extremely hard. So thank you so much.
Of course, no problem. I mean, I know that's the way I look at it is that, me sharing my story is going to help, a million others because there's a lot of, so as we speak now, they're experiencing abuse. But being a cycle breaker can be very lonely. So I just know for a fact that was what I was put on this earth to do. And God was actually preparing me when I was young. All them days I used to be in the house advocating for myself, advocating for my siblings. He was like prepare me for my advocacy role for today. So I get it. And so I have to be transparent and vulnerable, even when it's tough to talk about. I have to have these conversations because this is who made me the person I am today.
Very good. Very good. And that's the reason why I appreciate you so much, because this is the story that other people have already. And you sharing your story is the reason why others will be able to not only share their story, but understand that it wasn't your fault.
Of course, exactly. And you can come out on the other side.
Mhm.
Um,
And you
you know,
have.
of course, yeah.
So I want them to know what you have done.
So since 2014, I've been out in these streets,
Yeah.
spreading awareness on. I started off as a child abuse prevention advocate with my first mentor, Drew Morton, who, he had a nonprofit, to raise awareness on the abuse of children. And I jumped on with him. He saw how, passionate and enthused I was. And he brought me on board and he had me manage the programs of his organization. And for the fact that he trusted me so much, I've come a long way. But I've been involved in DC Children's Advocacy Center, called Safe Shores for years. We became ambassadors. We've been volunteering. Um, and then I kind of just ventured off and did my own thing, which started as a community initiative called Bloom and Daisies of April, then Break the Silence and Bloom, which is the book title of my first poetry book. And then now I just turned in the initiative that we've been working on together. Spaces to Bloom is now a business, service-based business, mental health and trauma-informed advocacy and coaching services that we offer. So I'm very excited about that. You can follow my IG page at Spaces to Bloom, and you can find out more information about the business at spacestobloom.com. So the aces and spaces, you know, but that's my passion right now.
It
Just
is.
spreading awareness. So, started off as, child abuse, but there's so many different other abuse that I want to make sure that I'm covering. And so when I read about ACEs, I'm like, well, why not just cover ACEs, period? Because ACEs includes child abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, domestic violence. I mean, if you are exposed to domestic violence, more than likely you had experienced child abuse, because they kind of go hand in hand. You're living with someone with a mental illness. My father was incarcerated at one point because of what he did to my older sister. But yeah, it's definitely, we need to shed more light because this is just the reality for many. And I'm not going to stop talking about it. So
Uh, and so you've been on this ACEs journey for a very, very, very long time. How did you find Dr. Torie?
so when you use hashtags, you use a lot of hashtags.
I do. I do. And I was told not to, but honestly, I think it's important because I want to make sure that I'm addressing a certain audience. I'm not really into quantity right now
Right.
because I want to get the information that we need out there. But see, that's going to improve now that I have people like you behind to do what we need to do, because this isn't just me by myself. It is enough room in the ACEs realm to share. Let's be clear.
Yeah. It's a lot of information
A
out
lot
there.
of information. So I'm not selfish about it at all, but I want to make sure that I'm aiming the right target area. And you're not the only one. It just, the way that it has flowed with us, it just synced. It synced from day one. And here we are. Space is
Yeah.
even if it's 2 people, if it's 5 people, if it's 7 people, I like when people come on. And people come on, they love the topics, they talk about them, and then bring topics to you. I'm sure somebody has said, where have you been and when are you coming back? And even if it isn't, it's me. That's one person that is saying this is what we need to do, because I'm telling you the impact is out there, but not even for the audience, but for you.
Yeah.
If you don't mind sharing your personal life, you're married, have been happily married,
Happily married with 2 kids. And like I said, I had my son when I was 19, you know, and like I said, being a cycle breaker, it's a lonely road, because, you know, you're not going with the status quo. You're not accepting the dysfunctional system, you know, of the family, and you're going against it. So you're just like kind of outcast doing your own thing. That means, you know, when I'm getting married, there's not going to be any support system. When I'm having my kids, you know, going through my pregnancy, I'm not going to have a support system from my side. I mean, my support system is very, very, very small. And I'm really grateful for like the people that, you know, are in my circle, but it's a lonely road. And the resilience, I remember being told, I told you this, that when I was in high school, that my guidance counselor told me that how resilient I was. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but having to be resilient and strong at such a young age, I know for a fact God was like molding me into preparing me to go through this journey alone. But I have a community, you know. It may be lonely when we talk about friends, but family, but I do have friends who have become family. But it is a lonely road. And, you know, I still have that mother wound. I still have that father wound that I struggle with. You know, when I see mothers and daughters and fathers protecting their daughters, and, you know, mom going hard for theirs, you know, that it hurts till this day, no matter what. But he has blessed me with people to kind of like help fill that void. So that I'm most grateful. But it's like, if I'm not sitting in this space and talking about it and raising awareness, it's like, that's all I can do with what I went through. That's all I can do. And it actually saved me. So writing about it, you know, was therapeutic growing up. And now it's like, now you're supposed to speak up about it.
Right.
And when you understand what your mission and your role in life is, it brings you true happiness. Like, that's why I'm happy. And I think that's why I didn't struggle with like substance, you know, and peer pressure and, you know, going down the wrong path before I had to learn, because I already knew at a young age what my mission in life was. And a lot of people don't know that, and they struggle with that. But because I knew at a young age, and let me tell you, God kept me. He kept me the whole entire time. The whole entire time. So I know for a fact that, you know, I'm doing what I was born to do.
And you are, to this day. It's not just my pleasure. I'm sure there's going to be someone that is going to say, yep, I'm ready. I have to tell my story, because really it's all of us. This is the reason why we're doing what we're doing, so we can get the information out there, so we can continue to share. Now, you made a statement about the mother wound and the father wound. Pretty good. I caught it. How's the relationship with both now?
So I've cut my mother off for good the day my daughter was born, because I've tried to work things out with her. You know, we yearn to have this relationship with our mother. It's human nature, even when they've wronged us. And just when I would hope, like, you know, probably if I let her in, she would have been want to have a relationship. I made 3 attempts, and it was just so toxic. It was so toxic that the day that I had my daughter in the hospital and I was crying, I remember the doctor telling my husband, whoever she's on the phone with, she needs to get off, because she should be celebrating the life of her daughter, not crying. Right. And that's when it like hit me, like this cycle needs to be broken. Like if I continue this with her, then it's gonna, bleed into my daughter. Like it's gonna be carried over to into my daughter. And I don't want that. So I cut contact with her 7 years ago when my daughter was born, and I've never went back. And it's the best decision I've ever made. Now, as far as my father's concerned, I've been in contact with him for years. I've been to family events where I've seen him, and I didn't say anything. But at that time, I was looking for validation where I would put myself in spaces I didn't belong. And I had to realize that you can't go back to the place where you were, you need to heal from.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lot of people, a lot of gaslighters and people that's like, it wasn't, they support him. So once they support him and he can do no wrong, I don't need to be in that space. It's not going to be addressed. So at this point, it's like you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to just move on and, stay away from those type of environments. And ever since I've been doing that, I've been so happy.
Good for you.
Because you want to show up in spaces where you are seen and heard, and
Right.
you're not looked at, as you're the problem, or she's this or she's that, or here she comes. It's not going to end. And the thing about it is they don't feel comfortable in my presence because they know that I'm going to speak up about things. They know I'm not going to go with the flow of things. I've never did. That's not who I am. And so whenever, and my mother hates that about me. I know that because one of the questions that I came across that you sent was, were you considered the scapegoat or the black sheep or the golden child? Now, in my dysfunctional family system, you're the golden child or the favorite if you go along with that. If you accept your father. So if you accept Tony in these spaces, you can have a conversation with him regardless of what he did to you and act like nothing happened. You are it. If you speak up against it or you resist or you refuse to go along with that, then you need to just find a door and just leave. Because at this point, I'm going to always be in the wrong, no matter what I do. Like my baby sister who I tried to get custody of back in 2011 because she had expressed that, my father tried to kiss her at one point. She wants the love. She was looking for that love from my mother so bad that my mother actually brought her back into this toxic environment recently. And she has a son too. And my sister's a lot like me. She's like, no, I don't want to see this man because already my mom was having this man come around to fix things in the house. Right. And my sister was like, look, I do not want to see him. I don't want to have nothing to do with him. He's not supposed to be around my child. And when she expressed that, they made her the enemy. She was like the issue. And I knew that would happen because I'm like, well, if you fight against it and you're not going with the flow in that family, in that system, like they're going to make it really hard for you. They really don't want you around because they want him around. They're going to embrace his presence. So really you have no choice but to just leave and just start a whole new life, start a whole new, tradition. Like, but the sad part about it is till this day, my mother is still married to him.
Oh, wow. She
has never reached out to us or tried to like mend anything. There's no mending of anything. I think that's why the mother wound hurts so much because, a lot of we're not perfect, right? But even when mothers make mistakes, they still try to mend a relationship with their kids. They still try to do right by them, right? And for us, it's like our mother doesn't even want to pursue that. So I think that's what we struggle with a lot as adults, because me and my siblings were mothers. Right. And so it seems like, like my other sibling who's now mom, she struggles with the motherhood because of that. It's like, it hits you when you become a mom. Like, what is it about me that, why does she want to be in my life? And when you become a mom, you having your mother around is ideal, right? But that's just why I know that, and this is just what I need to be doing because there's a lot of people out there who are actually tolerating, the toxic mother or parent or father because they fear that they're going to lose a sense of belong, and they wouldn't know how to survive in the world without the help or the support of that parent. But then again, it's like, it's not healthy for them, and they don't know what it looks like to even cut contact, go no contact. They won't even know who they are. But the thing about it is they're suppressing their true identity, most times, because it's like you can't even show up as yourself around your parents or your parent, and they're unhappy.
So tell me, you did it. You did it. You did it. And you are right, because people can't do that. They don't know how. They don't even understand the mother womb. So that's the reason why, again, you got to keep going with Spaces to Bloom, because of course we want to be relatable. This is what's going to make us relatable, but we can educate them also in the process. When I redid the study, I just put it out there. I put every definition so everybody can understand what they are doing. Even if you've never heard about ACEs, you will now. So we kind of have to be educational because we want people to understand what it is. You did your research, you found out what it is. But that mother wound, you know how powerful it is. I know how powerful it is. There's people out there that don't. So however you did it, would you mind sharing that with people so they can consider the same?
So what helped me heal, what helped, as I'm healing my mother wound, is just being the mother that I needed to my kids. And that looks like, being emotionally present, even though I still struggle with that sometimes because, I go through, like, I feel like I'm always having to be busy to cope sometimes. Like, I always have my plate full, but trying to be present, telling them that I love them every day, understanding they love languages, giving them compliments, even if things I don't understand, try to understand it, meet them where they are. Validate them, boost them up. When they show you something like, Mom, look at this, boost it up, like, let them know how proud you are. Cause that's something I've never gotten, even though I was an overachiever. My mother never told me she was proud of me. But yeah, just me, and it's called reparenting. It's a form of reparenting myself. Doing things even for myself that my mother probably should have done in the past. Like, I had to do it for myself. So it's not just, the way I parent my kids, but just how I show up for myself. And I have accepted the fact that even though I'm 36 years old now, no matter how far I am in my healing journey, it's always going to hurt. Because that's human nature to, have a mother. But I do have someone who's a mother figure to me, which I'm very grateful for. But that mother wound is just always going to be there. You got to learn how to kind of manage and kind of like, how to kind of deal without having to, be addicted to substance and, looking for unhealthy ways to cope. But it is what it is, and I have to accept it. And like, I have to remind myself that God kept you. God knew that he knows the parents that you have. He understands it, and that's why he kept you. And that's why he kept you covered, because he know you needed that protection. So that's just, it's a mindset thing as well.
And look at you now. Look at you now. Your testimony is amazing. Your story is what it is. I love that you said your healing journey, because you're still healing.
Oh yeah, still healing.
So why do people think that it takes overnight or snap of the fingers to heal? Because
it's not.
I think also something we need to have people understand, that your healing journey is what it is. We're going through an ACEs journey. We're trying to do what we need to get this information out here. I see the progress. I'm happy about that. But I think my issue is getting people to understand that ACEs is okay.
Yeah, it's common. It's common. I think the best part about this, our ACEs, journey is that we are aware of the impact and the lifelong consequences as to why we're struggling as adults. I think people who've been through trauma or have unresolved trauma, they're not ready to face it. And so they become adults with all this stored trauma in their body, and they don't know why they're acting the way they are. They don't understand why they feel the way they feel. They don't understand why they're unmotivated, why they feel stuck, or why they're still looking for validation. Until you address it, it's always going to come up in everything that we do in our relationships, our friendships, at work. It's just, you have to address it. Once you address it, and once you understand the correlation between the unresolved trauma and why I'm struggling with my health, my mental health. Like, if you don't understand that correlation and understand that what happened to you or how you feel as a result of what had happened to you, and that there's nothing wrong with you, because too often we hear like, oh, what's wrong with her, or what's wrong with him, or no, something happened, right? And so if they don't understand that, they're not going to be able to move forward. And the
Right.
more they try to hide it or bury it, the worse they're going to feel. Like, that you have to address it, and it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be an ugly process, but at the end, I promise it's going to be worth it.
So this is your audience. You have the opportunity to tell them, give them two important things to remember and discuss when addressing their ACEs. It wasn't on the sheet, I know.
No, it doesn't
I
matter.
know I'm trying not to make it as educational as possible, but guess what, you guys? This is us. We're educators.
Right.
We're trying to educate you guys on this because it has impact. We have did some things and we're happy about it. So we want you all to know this is what we are doing.
Absolutely. Two things. One, show up as your authentic self. And you can't do that unless you heal, because the unhealed version of you is going to show up as a different people who you're not. And you may try to be other people or be a people pleaser because you want to be validated so bad. You want to have a sense of belonging so bad that you're showing up as all these different characters. And you're not going to be happy because you're like, this is not who I am. Show up as your authentic self, but you have to heal first. When you show up as your authentic self, it's so empowering because the right people will gravitate towards you. Yep. The right people. Everybody, we all have a tribe out there. We're gonna gravitate to these people. And like I said, it's empowering. But the second thing is, with authenticity, you cannot suppress how you feel. And I think as Black women, we do that a lot. We used to suppress the things that we really want to say. We don't say it. Because we are attached to these family systems that are not good for us. And we fear that if we show up as our authentic self, that we're going to lose them. But don't be afraid to lose people, because we all deserve to, be a part of a community that really love us for who we are and wants to embrace us. And I think that's the hardest part of my healing journey is, one, showing up as my authentic self. And two, not suppressing who I am. But I'm at a place now where I am my authentic self, and I don't no longer have to suppress myself. So, and that's why I'm happy, because it's like, who cares about what anybody else think? Like, I'm gonna show up as me, and whether you like it or not, that's on you. But too often, this is the thing in the African American communities. It's like, whatever molestation or abuse they've experienced, they were taught to sweep it under the rug. So they have to show up in spaces and see their perpetrators they don't want to be around. That's traumatic. They don't feel validated in that sense. It's like, why do I have to, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a lonely road. Don't be afraid, but don't be afraid, because the outcome is amazing.
So what about in our community? Because our community is scared of therapists. They're scared of, I'm at a point where I'm like, just as far as healing, I'm heavy, and like I said, they finally put it on the CDC, so I'm gonna keep shouting that out. The extracurricular activity is heavy. It's like finding your like cooking for people, it's like their therapy, or art is their therapy. I say for students, extracurricular activity, well, extracurricular activity for anybody, honestly, could be therapy because it gives you that sense of doing something different and empowerment and make you feel good instead of worrying about the things that happened to you in your past. Why do you think our people are scared of therapy?
I think people, from this is what I think personally, people may be afraid to seek therapies because they don't want to see themselves. They don't want to have to go in. They're not ready to go there. And that's something that I've learned even as a coach, that I cannot force my clients to seek therapy. That's their journey. But what I do encourage is that they do things that will help them, build confidence and keep them motivated until they're ready. So like, self-care, try to do something at least one day that makes you happy, whether that's be, going to get some coffee, going for a walk, going thrifting, whatever makes you happy, do something for yourself. But we can't force them to, to go down that road and seek therapy because they're just not ready to look into themselves. And it's a lot, because once you look in, it's you can't just look away. It's a process. It's a process, and even they may still be in an environment where they feel like, what's the point? Because I'm still in this toxic environment. You know what I'm saying? How are they going to grow? You can seek therapy, but once you go back to the place that's making you sick, and you have to face these people and, be amongst them, I mean, that's tough, because it's kind of like, where am I even going with this?
Right.
So I encourage it, but you can't force it on anyone. That's just their journey that they have to seek once they're ready.
That is true. And I also think it's the understanding of therapy. Every
Right. That
it
part. Hmm.
isn't, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean that you have to sit on the couch and tell your business up, because
Right.
the perception that's out there means so much. And then as far as therapy, you have to find the therapy that best suits you.
Suits you. And that's another
So,
thing. Yeah.
so I'm here for all of that. I'm here for even the people that say, okay, I'm interested, so what do I do next? This might not be the therapy for you, but here's all this information just in case, so you can choose what you need, or whichever one
Right.
benefits you. I think it's clarity and understanding. And so that's also a good reason why I continue to educate, because you still want to know. We got you here now.
Right.
These are some of the next steps, or something that you can consider in your next steps, because that's what it is for me. It's just the fact that I know that so many people have it. Now I'm going to bring this up. 2023 school year, the results are in, and it's already 2 or 3 weeks of school already, and teachers are quitting and students are everywhere. They're calling Sister Friend. They're looking for you. What are you going to tell them? Because they need help.
Yeah,
And
what was the population like?
good question. It's diverse. It is 50% minority, Black and brown, 25% Caucasian, and then a mix of the other 25 after that.
So they're calling me to show up and teach.
They're calling you to show up because they're having issues with some of they need someone to address their mental health, with
Okay, got you.
staff and students.
Right. So with that one, we definitely want to have a trauma-informed approach to how we do things. That's the first thing. If we have scholars who are struggling with their mental health, we definitely need to go beneath the surface and see what's going on. So we're going to have to ask questions about their home life and their community life. But the thing is, we often will say, well, something's probably not right at home, which is not always the case. It could be they're outside the community, outside the homes, like their peers, they could be going through bullying. It could be substance use, violence, right? That can also impact their mental health. It's not always the home. So we definitely don't want to assume that, it's inside the home. And that's why I've been very intentional about where I live since my son started school. He's 16 now. When he started the first grade, kindergarten, I'm like, look, this is where we're going to live, because I understand that the environment has a role to play with a lot of things. It's just not the home,
Yeah,
but community that they're surrounded by.
it does. I have moved from
Right.
Chicago to Texas, two different things. But I also had to keep in mind that within moving to Texas, I had to move again, and I am fighting to keep them in the school that they're in now due to
Right.
resiliency. Somebody else may not understand it, but you do. I want to keep things kind of common ground and keep them
Right.
ed. They have aces. I can't say that they don't when they experience the divorce of their parents. So even with that, if they were to take the aces score, which they already have,
Right.
that one is that I have to do those things. So
Right.
imagine a school full of staff and students that have experienced all of this, and this is what is going on. This is what's going on in our schools right now. It's not just going on in our schools, it's going on in our communities, where
Yep.
we now have made it official on the CDC website that community violence has been included. They've put mass
Oh,
shootings
wow.
there. They've put everything up there. That's what I wanted to go over with you so you could
Yeah, that's
what's
good.
good stuff for you to use because you're using this. This is what you've been doing. But this is where we are now. When you
Yeah.
first started, you are trauma informed. You have a business, you're doing what you're doing. Um, are you willing to join or continue to join me on this journey to continue to educate others about ACEs?
Absolutely.
Because you're
Yeah.
doing you're already doing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to put it out there, but you are so geeked. You're ready to do an
Mhm.
ACEs awareness week. You're ready to do an ACEs awareness month. You're ready. How are you going to
Yeah.
get how are you going to get others to join your journey?
Well, to be quite honest, there's just not that many people who are enthused about ACEs. I don't know what it is.
Mm,
I try to break it down and make it where people understand it. But I guess my consistency may change that. Um, I don't know. It's just I think a
we
lot of
got
people are not ready
Thursday.
to. It's a lot of information on ACEs. That's another thing. There's a lot of information on ACEs. Remember that I shared with you. I wanted to do an awareness campaign with the ACE scores. But yeah, that in itself has been kind of a.
And it's gonna happen.
And the people are, yeah,
Happen.
right.
Because
I just,
you're not alone. And I'm sure in your journey, you've met more than me that are,
of
interested
course, I
in
have. I've completed a 2-day training recently. To become an ACEs interface master presenter, and I was in a cohort with other folks who are passionate about learning about ACEs. But I just feel like once it involves trauma, anything that involves trauma, I just feel like a lot of people are not ready to go there with that information. It's a heavy topic to discuss. So
It is.
when we do find advocates out there or a community of advocates, we got to take them and run with it, because we need that. That's what we need.
Yeah.
We need more people in those spaces, especially when it comes to men and their mental health as well.
Ugh.
But having these tough conversations, and that's why I'm here right now speaking about it. And I know it's tough, but I've spoken about my past enough where I'm at a place where I'm okay with it, but
Mhm.
not everyone is okay with that, and they're just not ready to go there. So I have to understand that not everyone's assigned with what we're assigned with, and we have to understand that, like,
Right.
when God gave us the assignment, the lens that we see things through are just different from theirs.
Right.
And they're not going to see our vision the way we do, and we have to respect that and just do the work that we were, um, the mission that we were given to do.
One of the questions that I had was the ACEs categories, and you are very You talk about them a lot, but like I said, I really want you to know that they're on the CDC website because you like the other amenities, shall I say. We talk about them a lot, but they're on there finally, and they
That's
finally
good.
them. Any last parting words before we dismiss?
Um, what I would like to say is that we're living in a time that where we're surrounded by trauma. It's trauma's everywhere around us, everywhere. And we just have to continue to do the work. Like we have to, because this having these conversations is a lot, it's saving lives. Being vulnerable is saving lives. And I'm just hoping that, I mean, we've come a long way at the end of the day as a society when it comes to being trauma informed and having, tough discussions on abuse, but we have a lot more work to do. And I feel like there's just something that we need to be doing, Dr. Torie.
We are.
I feel like there's just
I'll tell you
something that
now.
we're supposed to be collaborating and just taking
We're
it to the next
we're
level.
we're going to do it, and this is the thing. Like I said, I had to do this one because I
Right.
needed to get you in. But the
Right.
meeting that we're going to have is going to confirm. I know this is what you want, and this is what I'm going to do. It's not just for you, but I got a team of like 16. Last year I had 5. I got like 16 or 17 students that's ready to get in and do this. I have adults that are saying, what are you doing? I am doing this full time now. And so pray for me because I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You were saying
Right.
things you're supposed to be doing. I see you. I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening. And so, yes, this is what we're going to do. And I cannot do this without you. So I appreciate you. I thank you for everything. I thank you for just being this beacon of light that chose me to be your mentor. I hope I am fulfilling that job for you.
Yes, you are.
I am doing the best that I can, but I also believe that the Lord has me in this place right now to do exactly what I'm doing. So you're about to see more.
Absolutely.
I've been stepping it up a little bit. I actually have an intern, bless her heart. Like I have a young lady that is have been helping, and I have other people that have said, well, if you need help. And I am calling help now because this is the time. With everything that is going on right now, we have no other choice but to do this. So yes,
Exactly.
thank you for joining me. I thank you for just doing everything that you're doing. And I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule today to
Of
be
course.
with us. Give us all of your social media information, especially everything that you're doing so people can find you.
So my website is spacestobloom.com. My IG handle is Spaces to Bloom. I also have a Facebook page, Spaces to Bloom. And I also have an IG handle, Fran Speaks Up. And you can find me on Facebook by my first and last name, which is Francine Umaru. Yeah, I believe that's it. But if you want to learn more about my business, which is service-based, that's at spacestobloom.com. You can learn about, the things that I'm into now, as far as my signature coaching program that's coming up soon. We have a survivors support group every other Thursday, second and fourth Thursdays at 7 p.m. So if you follow my IG page on Spaces to Bloom, you'll learn more about those programs as well.
Spell the website.
SPACESTOBLOOM.com. Spacestobloom.com.
And notice under the spaces is SPACES.
Yes.
Had to shout it out. You'll see more of us, you guys. She has been there, and I think she's amazing. So you'll see a lot more from us here in the near future. I promise.
Yes, this
You're
is not
amazing.
the last.
Not at all. We're about to be a force. Trust.
Yes.
Because we got to get this information out. And for anybody that's listening, we want you. We need you because we cannot do this without you. So we need you to get in and get involved. It's as easy as passing this information on to somebody that this can benefit from. This helps me tremendously because I can say, here's Sister Fran. She's available. She can have this information, even with speaking engagements. I can say, hey, I got somebody else that I could actually reach out to. She's on the East Coast. I cannot make it, but she can. And so we can do what we need to do to get this out there. I'm ready.
I'm ready too.
Okay. Well, we thank you so much for another wonderful episode. We thank you, Sister Fran, for being here. And you can reach and find me on all social media outlets, BeVictorious.com. That's my website, BeVicTorie. That's my name, us.com. When you go on the website, there is the ACEs study. Yes, I was given permission by the CDC to go ahead and do it, and I used it to do it again and add those other amenities and also do some studies, some updated information. And I can do that because if anybody knows, if you're a researcher, you can actually do that, especially if it's your own study.
Yep.
So I'm really excited about that. Please go to my website, look, BeVictorious.com, and take that ACEs study. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.